points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, and Dave M. There's the old saying that desperate times call for desperate measures, and the Winnipeg Jets were certainly a desperate team entering this game. And they were a desperate team when they were down 2-0 before the game was 10 minutes old. But I'm not sure that anybody saw these desperate measures come to fruition, and what turned into what appeared to be a deficit turned into an overwhelming victory by a 5-2 margin for the Winnipeg Jets. A huge win for a team that absolutely needed this one, and it certainly didn't start off the way the Jets wanted it to.
Let's put it this way. Pierre-Luc Dubois will never wear a suit again. After he 2 games, 2 goals with wearing T-shirts.
Yeah.
I think Dave Lowry is going to have to relent. And he, I guess, during his media availability said, he doesn't really like wearing suits anyways. So I suspect maybe, hockey players are superstitious. He can probably ask the coach to never have to wear a shirt. But Drew, the truth is, I don't know how many people could have seen that game coming. Nashville looked like the Jets of old. They looked big, physical, assertive. And I jokingly tweeted out, which got a lot of reaction, that this game was perfect for a Dustin Byfuglien because of the physicality and the intensity. And the Jets looked like kind of that classic, I think it was a 1960s ad where the big bully, on the beach, beating up the scrawny guy, and then the scrawny guy gets bigger. And then suddenly, but the Jets were being outshot 9-1 and outscored 2-0. And then they outshoot them 40-22 to close out the game, and they outscore them by 5 goals. So an impressive effort from this Jets club. And we talked about it on this morning's show not that long ago, 10 hours ago. We talked about the need for the Jets to end this road trip with 3 points. It was absolutely critical that you couldn't do what you did last night in Dallas and then have a poor effort tonight in Nashville. Well, I wrote about it in the pregame report. This was a Nashville team that was sitting quite a few games ahead of quite a few points ahead of the Jets, obviously with, I think, 3 games in hand. But, they're going, and what you mentioned on the show this morning is their goals. They've scored a lot more goals than the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah. And,
for Connor Hellebuyck, I didn't like either of those 2 goals, but the truth is the team settled down eventually and they started to do what they needed to do, which is play a different style of game and not panic. And it's interesting because it's not something we've seen the Jets do, is kind of stay the course and not allow, allow the game to be dictated to them. And then instead they were able to take what the game provided. And I thought because of that, they took advantage of a power play, which, the Mark Scheifele goal cuts the lead. And then you can at least go into the first intermission feeling good about yourself, because instead of being, dominated, that's not the storyline anymore. The storyline is you're only down by what goal? You're not even down by 2 goals. 2 goals might have felt almost insurmountable based on the way the first period had gone, first half of the first period. But instead, you're only down by a goal, and you're in the game. And so from a Jets point of view, huge boost for this team. And, Dave Lowry's gamble with Connor Hellebuyck paid off. Mm-hmm. We'll see what he does. That's one of the points you made earlier on today's show was, what is he going to do with Eric Comrie and Connor Hellebuyck? How is he going to do that? But we know the team won't be available tomorrow. They'll be off tomorrow. Yeah. So from their point of view, they'll have a rest day tomorrow. They'll be back on the ice on Monday. So we'll get to know the goalie situation as of Monday.
Yeah, everything about this game was just bizarre. The Jets score 5 goals. First of all, that in and of itself is bizarre because this team has not scored 5 goals very often this year. I think there was a stat that came up on the broadcast. When the Jets score 3 goals, their record is tremendous this year. And I think it's maybe was 1 or 2 losses in regulation when this team scores 3 or more goals. But you're down 2-0. The Jets score 5 unanswered. Of those 5 goals, absolutely none of them came at 5-on-5. just a really bizarre game, a really bizarre phenomenon that you're able to get 5 goals and none of them come at even strength. I mean, obviously the Wheeler one at the end of the game was 5-on-6 with the goalie having been pulled, but everything else is either 4-on-4 or on the power play. The Jets special teams came to play today and they settled into the game. And you can't overstate, I think, how important, and you mentioned it, Dave, how important that goal is by Scheifele, a minute and 25 seconds after Duchesne makes it 2-0. Because it's 2-0 at that point in time. And you're thinking, you're in the second half of back-to-back. This team doesn't have a ton of confidence, to begin with, given how the season has gone so far. If you don't get that bounce back goal real quick, you wonder what happens to the rest of this game. What happened, it's like sometimes when a team plays on the second half of a back-to-back, they're the ones who start out quicker. They're the ones who are, have their skating legs, and then they fade as the game proceeds. That didn't happen today. The Jets, the Predators came out like the house on fire, but the Jets, I think, found their skating legs after the 2-0 goal. Certainly, Scheifele getting that goal on the power play, or I guess it was actually even straight, pardon me. That Scheifele getting that 4-on-4 goal, just it seemed like it boosted the entire team and it gave them an injection of hope almost. And then to get it to 2-2 after 40 minutes, and in the third period, just an undisciplined penalty by Mark Borowiecki, and I'm terrible with his name. I was practicing it before the show started, and I was stumbling over it, so you know who I'm talking about. But whatever it was, the Jets are able to make them pay. That's what's so important there, is that the Jets made their opponent pay for their mistake, and that has so rarely happened this year. And boom, it's 4-2. 5-2 into the empty netter, and boy, does this post-All-Star break portion of the Jets' schedule, and this week in particular, now look a lot different. 5 out of 6 points, all against Central Division teams. Then had they come home with only 3 out of 6 points, you'd be saying same old, and the schedule does get a little bit easier with next week's 4 games between Monday and next Saturday.
Sure, but I mean, the reality is you had to go and play Central Division teams, and you needed to win. And we said that this is what we've been talking about for quite a while, is that you have to put together a run. Dave Lowry was asked ahead of the game, by the panel talking. I think David Amber asked him about his team trying to find consistency and trying to find that ability to string wins together. Well, you've got points on this. You got 3 points as you said, out of 4 on this road trip. You beat the Wild, so now you're feeling good about your game. Again, you didn't play a perfect game. You were being outshot 9-1. That's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but you're feeling good about it because a lot of times the memory on these guys is what they just did, not necessarily the result, not necessarily sometimes the process. The coaches there are in charge of the process, and we'll look at that. But from a Jets perspective, you're feeling you beat Nashville, you beat Minnesota, you could have beaten Dallas. Again, you lose in overtime. You had a chance. Mark Scheifele, Ottinger doesn't make that save on 2-0 in OT. Who knows? But
you got 6 points instead of 5 points. You're right.
That's right. And now look, and we're not even going to look ahead to Chicago till the end of the show, so I'm not going to start talking about Chicago yet. But you can't afford to take them lightly for sure. But at the same time, there is a lot of good, because one of the things that you could have said from this, what could have been expected when this team was down 2-0, outshot 9-1. Mm-hmm. There was a high expectation from me, at least. I was like, well, this game seems like it's over. It doesn't seem like, Nashville was imposing their will on the Winnipeg Jets, whether it was Tanner Jeannot, who was, hitting everything that was wearing a Jets jersey, or just even a lot of the other Nashville guys. They just seemed to be like bodying the Winnipeg Jets, and there wasn't much of an answer. Obviously, Adam Lowry didn't like the hit on Ville Heinola. Mm-hmm. So when Jeannot exited the penalty box,
it was a bad
Lowry
hit.
I thought it was a stupid hit, and Lowry, and then Paul Stastny was hit low. I mean, he turned a little bit late, but I mean, he crunched him pretty hard into the boards there. So I mean, it was, but it just seemed like Nashville was, like I said earlier, they were the Jets of 2017-18. Just they could score and they could impose their will on you physically. And so from a Jets point of view, to be able to kind of withstand that, and as you said. And you hear different things, like Brendan Dillon often, not often, but I remember Brendan Dillon talking about a back-to-back during the season, and he made a comment about, the first period sometimes is a little bit chaotic because even though you might come out, some teams like to come out with a lot, will be able to come out with some energy.
Mhm.
Others find that they build as the game goes along and that they can kind of burn off some of the excess energy after that first period, but they'll start to come back out. So maybe that's what happened with the Winnipeg Jets. Cause like I said, that's what Brendan Dillon has said previously. And, we saw it because they started to get back into this game. And it was an entertaining game, right? It was a very playoff-esque type game between the Jets and Predators. The only negative I would say is that this is the last time they face each other during the regular season. So it's rather unfortunate they only played 3 times because it was entertaining hockey. But yeah, I mean, definitely a must. Like I don't want to say it was a must win, but it was the way they did. It was a must win, and impressively, 5 straight goals is impressive.
It is. And I mean, you can't talk about those 5 straight goals without giving credit to the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, Blake Wheeler.
Absolutely.
I mean, Blake Wheeler has oftentimes been criticized by us and by others, rightfully so. Just the reality of where he's at this stage of his career is that he's not worth the salary that's attached to his name, and that's no fault of his. Somebody offers you an exceptional contract, you're probably going to take it. But tonight, and his performance, look, you can't hold your nose when any player in this league gets 5 points. That's that 5 points in a professional hockey game is hard to achieve. And Blake Wheeler, certainly did his part to take the Jets on his back tonight. Mark Scheifele was better tonight. There were some shortcomings. You don't like his effort on the Granlund goal that opens the scoring, just coasting back and letting Granlund tee it up. You don't like that, but they did overcome the slow start to the game, and they were impactful players. And all the Jets players tonight were their best players in the game. I mean, you look at the goal scorers for the Jets: Scheifele, Connor, Wheeler, Dubois, Wheeler. I mean, those are the guys who need to lead your team. So yeah, getting the secondary scoring that they got yesterday from his guy like Jansen Harkins is needed, and it's important. Sometimes you need your best players to step up and be your best players, and the Jets' best players were that tonight. With the performance that they displayed, and again, you don't love that none of it comes at 5-on-5. But you're less worried about it if the special teams and if 4-on-4, you're going to be able to capitalize and perform like the Jets were able to do so. And to make your opponent pay for a big mistake, boy, that goes a long way, I think. That's just more than that. To see a guy, Svechnikov, who, Svechnikov's getting a shift there in the third period. Not that you expect anything really significant to happen on that shift. Just the way, that's a depth shift for your third and fourth lines. You're just trying to give him a shift to give your other guys a break. He ends up taking the elbow. What a dumb penalty. Just careless and undisciplined. And that's, of course, the knock against Nashville is that they take too many penalties and the Jets don't let them off the hook. And that's, I mean, it's one thing to get one goal. One goal is good, but one goal doesn't end the Predators. That second goal is really where they see the sag from Nashville at that point. And yeah, Scheifele takes the hooking penalty, but if you get 2 goals on a 5-minute major, you're okay with that because the clock is now your friend, and so you're playing 4-on-4 hockey for another 2 minutes. So it's not like Scheifele's penalty resulted in a power play; it just ended the Jets' power play.
Yeah, and I thought, like I said, I think you're right, Drew. I think the response from those guys was important, right? I mean, you needed your big dogs to be your big dogs, and if you want the lion's share of minutes and you want to play the most minutes, you want to be on the ice for the when the game's on the line. Well, you have to show that it's worth it, and you have to be able to. We've been talking about all season long. You have to perform, and what did we talk about on this morning's show? That a whole idea of goal scoring. And, what did you need? You needed Mark Scheifele to score. Well, he scored. You needed Blake Wheeler to score. I mean, we talked about it, right? Blake Wheeler. I mean, how critical is that for Blake Wheeler? You could see the reaction when he scored that redirect off the Scheifele shot. You could just see the relief kind of just like from his shoulders. You could just, it was very, 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 visible. based on that reaction from the Jets captain, how important it was. I mean, obviously it was an important goal because it gives his team the lead. But I mean, at the same time, you could just feel from himself how it kind of got that proverbial monkey off his back and made him feel good about himself because he's contributing. And he's talked about it. He says, look, regardless of his salary, it's not really a function of salary. It's the fact that he's on the first line or second line, whatever you want to call it. But the reality is he is up there. He's getting the most minutes, or, on the line that's getting the most minutes. So as a result, you need him to be producing. Mm-hmm. Well, he got the 2 goals, the empty net or whatever, but I mean, it's still insurance.
Yeah.
But it's still, regardless, like I said, that third goal is critical. And, he's playing better. And then Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's just been, and Kyle Connor, right? I mean, 26 goals. Kyle Connor, 300 points in his NHL career now tonight.
Not this year. 300 points in his career.
I think
it seems like he's had 300 this year.
Actually, he has 301, I believe, because he got an assist as well.
Yeah, he got an assist on the Dubois goal. That's right.
Right, but I mean, if he came in and he scores, he's got 157 goals and 144 assists for 301 points in 350 games. I mean, he's phenomenal. That's his 26th goal in 45 games. Mm-hmm. And, he's still legitimately going to be chasing 50. I mean, there's a chance for him. Pierre-Luc Dubois scores his 20th goal of the year.
Yeah.
Talk about, and I was just talking about it from yesterday's game. I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois has now equaled his goal total or he surpassed it now because of this goal, but from what he did in Columbus a few years back in a full season. Well, he played 70 games that season. And his career high is 27. Well, to me, Pierre-Luc Dubois, is reasonably on pace for, probably a 30 to 35 goal campaign for the Winnipeg Jets. Mm-hmm. So with the way Pierre-Luc Dubois is producing, the way Kyle Connor is producing, and then to have Mark Scheifele and to have Blake Wheeler produce, like you said, Drew, if you can get something from somebody else, that's great. But the reality for your Jets team is that you needed those guys to be the ones who stepped up in let's call it the biggest game of the year to date.
Yeah.
And that's just what they did. Mm-hmm. And look, Nashville, obviously we're feeling surly based on the game against Dallas. They just played, but they were rested. They were waiting for the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets ended up beating them kind of at their own game. And obviously losing Tanner Jeannot hurt them. He blocked the shot and had to leave the game. And they had penalty issues, and I saw it in the chat. People are talking about, you can see why Nashville is one of the most penalized teams. And I remember when Yakov Trenin used to play for the Milwaukee Admirals, and he'd be visiting, the Manitoba Moose. And in fact, if I recall correctly, I think I had a conversation with Christian Reichel a few years back because I think Trenin tried to fight him. And I think I was joking saying, he goes, well, no, that guy's too big, And it was funny because even that situation with Reichel earlier today, where was it Cousins who ended up
Nick
leaving?
Cousins, yeah,
Cousins leaves the game, but it wasn't like a dirty play by Reichel. I mean, he just inadvertently goes into the guy and then has to answer the bell. And so, and good for him for doing that. But, the Jets end up taking advantage of it. So I jokingly said on our Twitter saying, well, Christian Reichel's fist deserve an assist on that goal as well. But you know what? I think it's one of those games, Drew, sorry, quick, but I think it's one of those games that you didn't have, you needed the big guys to step up, and that's what you got. And like I said, Josh Morrissey, 2 assists. I don't know what he finished with in terms of his minutes. I'm sure it was quite a bit, but 23 minutes.
23-31. So he led all.
Yeah, by a lot though. No other defensemen were in the 20s. And so, Josh Morrissey stepping up, and that's what you needed.
Over 8.5 minutes on the power play for Morrissey, of course.
So but you needed your leaders to step up, and that's what you had in today's game.
Well, and you know what I particularly liked about the Jets, about the game, is they didn't back down. The last time they played Nashville, and we talked about this morning, or it might have been last night on the post game. I'm not even sure. The shows are blending together. It's been a lot of IC broadcasts in the last 24 hours. But last time they played Nashville, when they lost by that 5-2 margin on that Thursday night, a couple months ago, I thought that the Nashville sort of manhandled them. And Nashville was more physical than them, and the Jets weren't able to handle the physicality of Nashville. Tonight, the Jets were more in tune with the physicality that Nashville was bringing to the table. Now, is Nashville a more physical team than the Jets? Yeah, probably. But, you look at the shots or the hits by both teams, 35 each, according to the stat sheet that I'm looking at. So the Jets were able to at least not back away from that type of game. They knew that it was going to be a physical game. They knew that it was going to be a rough and tumble game. And you certainly saw that. And you saw some guy. I mean, Christian Reichel is that his first NHL fight? Probably. I can't think of another one that he's had at the NHL level. And Dave, you would know better than I would if he fights on a regular basis at the AHL level. I don't think he does. Exactly. You're shaking your head there. That's a guy who, he fought. Does he want to fight? Maybe not, probably not, but he responds and he does it anyways. Adam Lowry, again, that's another guy. He gets into a fight in tonight's game. The Jets just seem to be, for so long during the first part of the season, and I'm not saying that it's completely out of the game, they were just so passive and there was no edge to their game. And they were easily, I said it, I don't even remember which game I said it after, that the Jets were just getting pushed around. Mm-hmm. What I like is that they're not getting pushed around anymore. At least they weren't tonight. They weren't last night. The game against St. Louis before the All-Star break, they weren't. It's important that they show some fight and that they not get pushed around, even when they're not the most physical team. The guys who are physical players have to play that way. Adam Lowry has to be physical. He was more physical. Brendan Dillon has to be physical. He was more physical. That's what you've seen this week, is that those guys aren't necessarily contributing on the score sheet, but at least they're contributing in what they can do best, and that might be the physical edge that they bring to the game.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, Adam Lowry stepping up for his teammate, like for a young guy like Ville Heinola. I thought it was a good decision to put Heinola on for the 4-on-4. He started the playoff, set up Mark Scheifele with a beautiful pass. That's his first point of the season. So we talked, with Scott Wheeler about Ville Heinola and his arrival into the NHL, and he just seems to be more and more cementing his place with this Jets club, because he can do what they need, which is he has great vision. He can get the puck up quickly, and people talk about size and defending. Well, if you have the puck, you don't have to defend as much. And don't get me wrong, as a smaller guy, he's obviously going to have to learn how to be able to handle, bigger guys. And that's just a reality of the position he plays. But, I just think it's another kind of feather in his cap, another sign that he is showing you the confidence that we see at the AHL level with him, that he has now bringing it into the NHL level. And I think, as he feels like he's less likely to be pulled out of the lineup. I mean, look, Logan Stanley's wearing a regular jersey, is he not?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if
no, I thought Beaulieu was wearing the regular jersey and Stanley.
Fine, Beaulieu is. So, I mean,
doesn't matter.
What I'm saying, my point is that, if you felt like you had to worry that someone was breathing down your neck, like you're going to get pulled out of the lineup, well, then it makes a little more sense why you play a little tentative. You don't want to make a mistake. He doesn't seem to be playing that way. And that's hugely necessary for his game because of the way he plays his game. And it's important for his development to be able to play, like I said, smart, but you want to make sure that you're not constantly just worrying about making mistakes. And Dave Lowry talked about that the other day and talked about how guys, are going to be able to make mistakes and not feel like it's the end of the road, the end of the line for them, and they'll be banished from the locker room. Otherwise, Mark Scheifele might have been stapled to the bench and not scoring the goal that cut the lead in half. But I mean, it's one of those situations where, Drew, that like you said, if Adam Lowry isn't scoring, at least he's doing something that's bringing his team into the fight and responding. Because when Nashville, who else does the Jets have? They have Adam Lowry and Brendan Dillon. Those are the only two guys who I would qualify as physical on this team.
Yeah.
Who else is? There's nobody else.
Nobody.
I'm not saying there aren't guys who can equate themselves in a fight, but there's nobody who's physically imposing on this team other than Adam Lowry and Brendan Dillon.
Those are the guys you want to see. Those are the guys you're counting on to go lay a body check more often than anybody else. Yes,
that's right. So I think, like I said, I think that's look. Do I like fighting? Do I think fighting for a clean hit? Do I think Brendan Dillon needed to answer to Jamie Benn yesterday? No, I think that's stupid. I hate that kind of stuff. But do I like Lowry going out and defending his teammate against a guy like Jeannot, who's tough as nails, and kind of dummying your team a little bit, kind of disrespecting your team the way he was standing, kind of grinning after the hit on Heinola, standing around Hellebuck. And again, the kid I like his moxie, so I'm not knocking him, but you have to have a team that's not just going to take it. That's not going to say, oh, you just kicked the shit out of one of my teammates. No problem. That's all right.
Right.
He's got to handle his own business. So what did they do? They reacted for each other, which is what you do as a team. And as a result, again, I'm going to pardon the cliche in the chat, but it brought his team into the fight. And I think that was a hugely impactful thing for the Winnipeg Jets, because up until that point, really, Nashville was kind of dumbing them. And it kind of said, well, we're not going to take this anymore. And you burn them in the score sheet, and then you start to burn them more and more throughout the course of the game.
Exactly right. It almost was a bit of a wake-up call. Are we going to get bullied, or are we going to show some spine and fight back both on the physical sense of the game and fight back on the scoreboard? And they certainly were able to do that, and then some, with the 5-2 victory, a huge victory for the Winnipeg Jets over the Nashville Predators. We say good evening to everybody joining us in the chat room, watching us on YouTube, watching us on all of our social media platforms. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. Dave Manouk is on your screen. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. What we ask of you, smash the like button if you haven't already done so. We appreciate if you do that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Tell a friend, tell a loved one, tell a family member, tell somebody that you just happen to come across on the street that they should spend their post-game shows with us on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show here on our YouTube channel, and they should spend Saturday mornings with us as well, because we do this after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and we do this, like I said, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. A huge victory for the Winnipeg Jets. They improved to 20-17-8 in the standings. The Vancouver Canucks also victorious tonight, so the Canucks do stay ahead of the Jets in terms of points, but in terms of points percentage, because the Jets have 4 games in hand on the Canucks, the Jets remain ahead of the Canucks. But it's incremental as you're going to get back into this game. It's almost looking at your opponents that are around you is almost, it's too soon for that, because you just need wins at this point. You don't need to even look at the other scores, because you need wins. The Jets need to keep stringing together wins and points and a winning streak. And then when you rattle off 8 in a row or 9 in a row, or points in 8 in a row or points in 9 in a row, then you can begin to look around at the other players around you and the other teams around you. But right now, the Jets are just trying to crawl their way back into the playoff race. And with tonight's victory, it helps. It's certainly not going to change their fortunes if they don't keep it going next week, but it certainly is an all-important, clean 2 points on the road on the second half of a back-to-back against a team in your division. The Jets have played well against their own division, as it happens this year. It's just all the other divisions that they've struggled with, Dave.
Well, and look, Drew, as you pointed out on the show, and I'm going to be saying that a lot because I guess I'm going to give you credit. You mentioned it this morning. They don't play an Eastern Conference team till that March 1st game against the Montreal Canadiens. So they've got an opportunity to make some hay against the Western Conference. And that's what they need to do. They need to just keep this rolling. And the truth is, you don't have the opportunity to sorry, Kenny's water bottle coming in with some good comments, but you don't have an opportunity to have any sort of malaise set in. This is a the start, if you're the Winnipeg Jets, of something significant. And like you said, Drew, you've got the win against Minnesota, you got the overtime loss against Dallas, and now you got a win against Nashville. So now you have to be honest, you have to kick the crap out of Chicago. You need to feel good about your team. Ideally, you have a game where your role players get involved, and then from there, you see what you can do. And it was a curious decision. I mean, we talked about it on the show, and I wrote about it in the pregame report for illegalcurve.com, because it wasn't clear what Dave Lowry was going to do.
You're
talking
about
Mike McIntyre, in terms of the roster for tonight's game.
Yeah.
And then Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, who's down in Nashville, he tweeted out that they were going to go with the same roster, which meant obviously that Connor Hellebuck was going to be starting in goal. So that's an impressive effort by Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah.
Second game. I mean, again, the first 2 goals, weren't ideal, beat from fairly far distance on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is unfortunate because that puck ends up on Granlund's stick, kind of flubbed, and then he wires it. But Hellebuck probably should have had that because it's top of the circles. And then the Duchesne shot again. He kind of looked at Morrissey. I think that was on the Granlund goal, but I don't know if he thought he was screened. But regardless, it's a tall task because he didn't take 35 shots and play overtime yesterday against Dallas, and then came in and played a decent game. But we didn't know. We didn't know if it was going to be Eric Comrie. We didn't know if they were going to make some. I didn't know it was icy after dark. Drew drinking some wine. But
it's Saturday night at 9:20 p.m. This is the third show we've done in 24 hours. I think I'm entitled to have a little sip of wine every now and then.
There you go. Anywho, so the point is that this was a team effort, and like I said, you get the big dogs scoring the goals, but you had a lot of good things. Like I said, Christian Reichel he had some chances, right? Like he made some plays. Obviously, his inadvertent fight helps the Jets because, of course, there's an instigator added to it. So as a result, they get a chance to get the Kyle Connor goal, and Evgeny Svechnikov's face with that stupid hit and I don't know why they needed to review that. Well, I really don't. Yeah. I'm thinking to myself, the only thing I could think that they're reviewing it for is to ensure that it wasn't a stick that came up and hit him in the face and caused the blood. Because, to me that it was a clear elbow from watching it. And when you see the blood, it's really no mistaking it. So, so it wasn't a surprise that they quickly called that. And look, so Evgeny Svechnikov, I'm sure he's not less than pleased about having to sacrifice his face to get the penalty, but that's a huge 5-minute major, right? And like you said, the Jets score 2 goals on the major, and really take over the game. So I think this is just a huge win. And you know what? You got to put into context. I mean, the Jets are still far back, and they've still got a long a high hill to climb. Sorry. So this isn't they don't get to rest, but you have to play the games that are in front of you. And it's funny because oftentimes, and I'm sure whatever the score effect was looking at, although I looked at the advanced stats, they weren't crazy. After the first 10 minutes, I'm sure they were heavily in favor of Nashville, but they evened out, and actually the Jets had the better of the advanced stats. But to me, one of those things you were looking for was that idea that you put in that effort, you got the reward, and for the Jets who played a good game last night, but had a Pittsburgh type situation where they brain farted for a minute, and as a result, they end up allowing Dallas to come back. It wasn't out of reach, but still it was a situation that they kind of their own creation, same as what they did in Pittsburgh. But this was much more of it wasn't a complete effort, because it's hard on a back-to-back, and because it was the first 10 minutes. You wouldn't call that by any stretch of the imagination a good effort. Yeah. But overall, you did what you needed to do, which was you played the better hockey for the last 50 minutes of the game, and you scored 5 straight goals to win the game.
And it was an all-important victory for the Winnipeg Jets by that 5-2 margin. Nobody go anywhere. We're going to pay some bills, but we'll be back with much more post-game show coverage. We'll preview Monday against the Blackhawks. We'll probably make fun of Ezzy a little bit because he's not here to watch us. All the fun things that you come for. I'll drink some more wine on camera. That seems to be getting some reaction as well. Stay with us. It's a fun Saturday evening. The Jets victorious 5-2 over the Nashville Predators.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends, or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh! Looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Hey boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
Whether it's watching the game with friends, pizza night with the family, or date night for two, this holiday season, give the gift of special occasions. Get a free $10 promo card when you buy a $50 gift card from Boston Pizza. Because nobody regifts pizza.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Just before 9:30 Saturday night, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you. For those of you asking, where is Ezzy? Ezzy is having a nice date night with his wife tonight, so we gave him the night off so that he can maintain his marriage and still be married come Monday. My wife is having a nice date night as well, not with me though, with her other boyfriend, so that works out well for everybody, allowing me to be here for the post-game show.
Well, and Drew, and the reason, of course, why I want Ezzy to have a happy life is because if I don't, then his temporary forays to my maison will become permanent, and then I'll just like randomly have Ezzy walking in the door.
Well, after he stole the toque and was roaming through your office earlier today.
Not happy about that.
Nah, I don't blame you. I mean, you got to fumigate after that happens, the whole 9 yards. It's a real hassle when things like that happen. He's supposed to be restricted to his little box, and that way where the damage that he's going to do is limited to a small area. In any event, we say good evening to everybody. Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment, courtesy of our friends at Tough Duck. It goes to Andrew Haleko. Andrew's been eager in the chat room all night tonight, so here is his comment from a little while ago. Andrew says, the most important thing tonight was a clean 2 points against a Central Division foe. That was a miss last night, not getting in the 2 points rather. How the Jets play is less important than the fact that they win clean. That's the only way to catch up. Andrew, good comment. Courtesy of our friends at Tough Duck, you are the winner of tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Send me an email, drew@illegalcurve.com. You can send me a DM on Twitter @ICDrew. Send me your mailing address and we will make sure that you get hooked up with the toque from our friends at Tough Duck, the proud sponsor, of course, of the hardest hitting comment here on the post-game show. Dave M. You're on mute.
I know. I was just finishing something up. It was a good comment by Andrew, and it's one of the things we love about this format that we've switched to is that we have so much more interactivity with people. And Kenny mentioned it. on the show this morning, and it was
His
something I
water
wanted.
bottle or real
No,
Kenny?
no. Although I think the next time we're going to have Weber on, I think we should send the link to Kenny's water bottle, see which one uses the link first, and then they can be the one who comes on. But, Kenny did mention that it's, because I tweeted about this on February 9th. I didn't even realize it was the 1-year anniversary of Bell Media giving the old axe to TSN. And, one of the things I said, which is the truth, was that when you I had a conversation once we kind of all got the news, we of course knew that we weren't going to allow it to impact us, and thankfully for us,
it was our way out. We almost had an out, and yet here we are still a year later.
But anyways, the point is that we already had the infrastructure in place, that we knew we were going to be able to just keep things rolling. We just didn't know exactly how, but we had a good feeling that we would. We had a good conversation the next couple of days, and of course didn't miss our Saturday morning show the next 3 days later, and had a great show. And ever since, we've been doing this show on YouTube, and we're so thankful to our sponsors, the old ones who stuck with us, the new ones who have joined us, and mostly to the people in the chat, and those of you who smash the like button and take part in this conversation every single post game or on Saturday mornings. You don't know how much it means to the three of us that you guys support us, and we really do. We're amazed, actually, because I love this format so much more than terrestrial radio. It's not even funny. And I said that to the guys early on. I said, this is the way it's got to be anyways. This is the way we should move towards. And it's proved to be such a great decision for us. And we really are so thankful that you have all continued to support us and join us after every Jets game, and after spend your Saturday mornings with us, or you listen on podcast. Either way, we appreciate the support. It doesn't go unnoticed and unappreciated by Drew, Ez, and I.
Well said there, Mr. Manuka. I would agree wholeheartedly with you there. It's been fun, and the fun will, of course, continue. Fun for the Winnipeg Jets. I'm sure that is going to be a fun plane ride home from Nashville. Presumably, they're leaving tonight. I mean, yes, it's possible that they might overnight in Nashville, let the guys have some fun on Broadway, but they usually fly back after the game. I guess it depends on what the sleep doctor recommends. Same time zone, so they might wouldn't be surprised if they just boot back to Winnipeg tonight. A huge victory for the Jets tonight. They were down 2-0. In case anybody missed the game and is just joining us for the post game, they were down 2-0 after 6 minutes and 20 seconds, and then they rattle off 5 unanswered, including 2 in the third period to break a 2-2 tie after 40 minutes. Both of those goals coming on the power play after Mark Borowiecki, I think I got closer that time, was assessed a 5-minute major. And then Blake Wheeler, 5-point night for the Jets captain, icing the game with that 5-2 victory. Jets next back in action on Monday night against the Blackhawks. Connor Hellebuyck played very well tonight, Dave. Could you see Dave Lowry? Do you think Lowry goes back with Hellebuyck again on Monday, given that they get the 1 day off? Or do you think that's sort of got it marked down as an Eric Comrie kind of night? And maybe, with the Wednesday, Thursday games both being at home and not having any travel involved, maybe, Dave Lowry chooses to run Connor Hellebuyck back-to-back again on Wednesday, Thursday, and gives him Monday off instead.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, because I think, there's multiple ways you could look at it, right? If you look at it from the perspective of, if you really want to seize the day, a little carpe diem, you could try and give yourself, you're going to give him a day off tomorrow, so it's not as if he's going to be overly taxed, and you can give him a start on Monday. Then you have who do you have on Wednesday? You have
Wild.
The Wild. Ooh, that's true. You're going to want Hellebuyck probably for the Wild, and then you'd want Comrie for the Kraken. Yeah, look, the thing they can't do, I don't think, is you don't want to burn out Connor Hellebuyck.
Right.
And those first 2 shots, the first 2 goals, kind of looked like a little burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally would go with Eric Comrie. Why wouldn't you, right? He played phenomenally against the St. Louis Blues, but that was what, the 29th of January. So that's already over 2 weeks ago since his last start.
Yeah.
And, I understand Weber was talking about it today, about that idea of how Eric, will stay on the ice and he's the last guy on there taking shots. But, there's only so much you can practice without, a real benefit. So what do the Jets need to do? They need to get him some game action. Well, he proved you your faith in him right by letting him play against the St. Louis Blues and playing really well.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that you're going to serve Eric Comrie well. I don't think you're going to serve your hockey team well, and I don't think you're going to serve Connor Hellebuck well by playing him too much. And look, I just think like you go with Eric Comrie on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
You use I think you said this earlier, and I agree. You go Comrie on Monday.
Yeah.
You go Hellebuck on Wednesday against the Wild.
Yeah.
And then you go Comrie against the Kraken. And then realistically, you've given Hellebuck the rest, and that should kind of reset the batteries. And then, but then you have a back-to-back. Oh no.
You have Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday.
Saturday, Monday, right. So then you have the opportunity, if you want, Hellebuck should be rested at that point. If you need to, you can play Hellebuck Saturday, Monday, or you can depending on if Comrie's rolling, then maybe you don't need to. But I just think it's one of those opportunities to get Eric Comrie in. The team is feeling good. I mean, remember that whole muscle memory thing. The team feels good about the effort he gave him. So we'll see.
I think they go with Comrie on Monday too. And when you play your backup goaltender,
Mm-hmm.
it sometimes forces all the skaters in front of them to have that attention to detail that is oftentimes this year for the Jets been missing. That when they went to Comrie on that Saturday afternoon against the Blues, I think everybody in front of Comrie stepped up their game. Not that they don't have faith in Eric Comrie, but that they just know that their attention to detail has to be a little bit better. I could see if they go with Hellebuck against a Blackhawks team on Monday that isn't very good, that attention to detail might not be there. By going to Comrie, I think it'll almost, by default to some extent, focus the team a little bit more ahead of puck drop. So that when the game starts on Monday, they're focused, they're dialed in, they're locked in, and maybe by having that attention to detail and having that focus, they're able to dispatch the Chicago Blackhawks a little bit easier. Not saying that that's for sure going to happen, but I could see that. I sort of can make those connect. I can connect those dots into some of the logic that might be at play. You can't run at this stage of the year when you still have 37 games to go. You can't run Connor Hellebuck for all 37 games. You're going to run him for a whole hell of a lot of games, but you can't run him game in, game out, game in, game out. I go Comrie on Monday. I would not be surprised if you go Comrie on Thursday, and then all of a sudden Connor Hellebuck gets that. He doesn't get rusty because he has that game against the Wild on Wednesday, which is obviously a huge game. And then you probably go back with him, on Saturday against the Oilers, and Monday afternoon when you head out to Calgary to play the Flames again. That's just sort of how I could see the goaltending situation line itself out. Because probably in a normal circumstance, this would have been a Comrie game tonight.
Right.
But given where the team is, given the fact that they lost in overtime last night, Dave Lowry made the right decision, I think, and went with Hellebuck. But so you have to find another game for Comrie, and that to me would be Monday and probably again even Thursday. But you can wait and see what your result is like on Wednesday before determining that Thursday goaltending matchup. So to me, it's Comrie on Monday again against the Blackhawks team that isn't very good, that you should be able to handle. And but you still should, for the Winnipeg Jets this year has been a very difficult word for them to overcome often. In fact, think about all the games they should have won that they haven't been able to do so this year. Games against Arizona and Buffalo, and the Islanders clearly are not a very good team either that the Jets struggled with as well. So there's been plenty of should games that the Jets have not come up on the winning side of the ledger on.
Yeah, but I think your point that you've made fairly consistently is the right one. I think that the Jets would probably play a little bit more safe in front of Eric Comrie, and maybe against Chicago, who they could take lightly, even though they'll never say that. They'll be forced not to.
Yeah, and
so we'll see what happens, and we'll see what in terms of the the lineup decisions. Will any players come back? Or are they going to start? I mean, they'll have to start doing something in terms of. We'll find out about Nikolai Ehlers. In theory, he could be eligible. I'm with you, Drew. I kind of agree with Weber. I think you go with kind of that in between 3 weeks situation, as opposed to when I think David already said 2 to 4 weeks. So anyways, I just think it's one of those situations where you've got to think that it's an opportunity to help your whole team out, right? I mean, again, Connor Hellebuck needs the rest. He just hasn't looked as crisp as he could. He made some big saves. He made some big saves last night, but at the same time, you need him to be. You can't just have him for 1 game or 2 games. You need him to be good for like a consistent part of the season, because you're going to need to run him. You really are going to need to run him at a certain point. We talked about it, right? What was it, like 39 games in 81 days or whatever I think it's even less now, actually. So whatever it is, it's not a lot. And I just think with all this, the strain that is put on him, I just don't think there's a benefit to burning him out early and then falling short of the race because you didn't have enough faith in Eric Comrie. Eric Comrie showed you, look, St. Louis Blues are one of the best teams in the NHL, right? Or they were when the Jets were playing them. And Eric Comrie played a very good game. Yeah. So you have to have faith that he's going to continue. You have to have faith. Like, you made the decision, right? Well, not Dave Lowry, but your organization made the decision. So, and he's proven you right, I think, more often than not. There's been a few goals that he's wanted back, but you know what? Connor Hellebuck's won the Vezina, and there's a few goals that he'd want back. Yeah. So you find me a goaltender who wouldn't be able to look at a goal and say, oh, I want that. I want at least 1 of these or 2 of these back throughout the course of the season. So I just think that Eric Comrie has kind of, I think it should have put that away. I think it, put it to rest, especially after the St. Louis game. And I think you just give him an opportunity to go in, play against the Chicago Blackhawks, put your team into a position to win. And again, the first game after a road trip, even though it was a short road trip, force the team to be focused. Have them be focused. As you just talked about, Drew, your buzzword, attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. But my buzzword all season long.
And the truth is that the coaching staff uses it too, or other people use it when they're describing it. So the truth is, I like that. Kenny's Waterball saying he listens to turns on the post-game show.
I got a comment on Alan calling Ezzy Fozzie Bear. That's terrific. By all means, if you guys all want to turn Ezzy's nickname into Fozzie Bear, I'm
Drew and I can actually
with that.
Drew and I can actually change it, whereas Ezzy actually has no power to make that edit. That's so right. We can actually. Oh, no, actually, no, sorry, he can control his name, but we could just change it back if he doesn't go with what we want. But
that's right. On the screen, we're talking about, not legally. We've been advocating to get power of attorney over him, but we haven't yet got him to sign the paperwork to that effect.
That's right.
But so, by all means, if you all want to start calling him Fozzie Bear, I'm completely on board with that. No questions asked.
Yeah, and look, like I said, you don't get too high after one game, but it seems to be a little bit more, of a little bit of a pattern here. You're starting to put something together. You didn't like the start, but you like the reaction. You like the response. And like I said, you got punched in the face, and yet you didn't allow the team to keep punching you. You fought back. And so an important game for the Winnipeg Jets, to state a captain obvious, but this is now a team that feels, comes back to Winnipeg now, and they can feel a little bit good about they're on a little bit of a roll.
Yeah.
And again, Drew, you said it. You can't afford to take your foot off the gas and take Chicago lightly. You have to honestly, and I'm throwing out the cliche after cliche after cliche tonight, but you have to play like, this is the most important game of the season. Because in a lot of ways it kind of is, right? Like, in a lot of ways, if you can show that you can step on the, Andrew threw out the comment, can you step on the throat of your opponent? If the Jets can do that to Chicago and really start to build, then you're building momentum. And think about all the emotion. And again, you don't want to look ahead of a game, but think about all the emotion coming into that game against the Wild. You've played them in the playoffs. You have that sort of geographic rivalry, and it's Nick Foligno's first game back in the lineup. So you've got that, and you just know. Did I say Nick?
Yeah, you said Nick like you did this morning. I think you said Nick either last night or this morning also.
I blame Sportsnet because it was funny because I was adding the links to the papers, and they wrote Nick, and I copy and pasted it and put it into the papers like I always do. And then I was like, Nick. I'm like, no, it's Marcus. But anyways, sorry, Drew. Nick, Marcus, of course. But it is the first game for Marcus Foligno, and there's going to be a lot of emotion and a lot of importance for the Winnipeg Jets to have another good effort against a Minnesota team that is way, way ahead of them in the standings. So we'll see what happens. But like we've just talked about, you don't look ahead to the Wild game. You got to focus on that Chicago game. And look, you're playing a Chicago team that's not doing very well. I think they're 7 points back of the Winnipeg Jets, and Jets have 3 games in hand or something like that on them. But you just can't afford to take them lightly. They still have guys who can score, and their goals for are higher than the Jets. Sorry, their goals against is fairly higher, it's fairly significantly higher than the Winnipeg Jets, and they haven't scored as many goals, but they still have guys who can get it done. So it's not a team that you want to take lightly, and that's why I think if you can show that you're going to be a serious team that wants to turn things around, well, then you got to do it on Monday.
Before we wrap up the post-game show, there is one other team based in this fair city that is currently in action tonight. We'd be remiss if we didn't end the show without everyone's favorite moment. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. It's time for the...
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
I don't know why. Even though knowing that it's going to happen, it still makes me laugh, and I still kind of get caught off guard by it every single time, Drew. But the Moose are in Abbotsford, and after getting pumped 8-2 last night, they are losing again. This is not something we are normally talking about with this Moose team, but they find themselves down 2-0 after 20 minutes in Abbotsford. So, of course, I have been doing this show. I have not been. I'm trying to keep my focus on the Illegal Curve post-game show. I know where my loyalties are.
Keep it focused.
It's also harder for me to do that when it's only you and I. If it was you, Ezzy, and I, then it would be a little bit easier for me. Yeah. I could, kind of keep my eye on my phone, watch what's happening. But now I'm maintaining my focus on the Winnipeg Jets and this Illegal Curve post-game show. But it's a tough situation. The Moose find themselves down 2-0. Now, talk about resiliency. This is a team that never really seems to be out of it. They don't have a ton of goal scoring, and Jeff Malott, who was ruled out by head coach Mark Morrison when we spoke to him during the last homestand. He said he was ruled out, for the first couple of games. He said he was potentially a player to join them on the road, and I thought that meant Abbotsford. Well, he didn't, because he's still he's not on the lineup tonight. And so from a forward perspective, they've got, like I said on this morning show, they've got one guy under NHL contract in Mikey Esimont. The rest are on AHL deals, and of course their defense is pretty good. I mean, it's still a pretty solid grouping in all the Jets prospects. Curiously, they went with Arvid Holm again tonight. I'm not really certain why that is. That caught me a little bit off guard because he was in goal for 8 goals against last night against Abbotsford. But I don't know if they're playing a hunch or if there's something up with Mikhail Burden. But that's a little bit curious of a decision from the Moose coaching staff. So that'll be something that bears watching later on. We'll see. Maybe there's something.
Fozzie Bears watching.
What's that?
Is that something that Fozzie Bears watching?
Fozzie Bears watching. That's true, Drew. That is very true. So anywho, it's not a great situation for the Moose, but like what we've seen from them all year, they really don't quit, and they continue to put in an effort. So if they can find a sliver of space, and if Abbotsford gives them an opportunity, then maybe we'll see if the Moose can crack things open and get things going in the middle frame.
Well, we know that one team came back from a 2-goal deficit so far this evening. Why not
Correct.
The other team at the AHL level? Dave M will have the entire coverage of the Moose game available on his Twitter feed at ICDave. You can keep it locked to at Illegal Curve as well. And of course, our Instagram and website will have continued coverage of both tonight's Jets victory 5-2 over the Nashville Predators and what happens in the Moose game as they're in Abbotsford, British Columbia, to face the Canucks. My Twitter feed will probably be dedicated to the University of Kentucky basketball team, because that's usually what I tend to end up tweeting about. Dave, the people are asking for a Super Bowl prediction. I know that you probably don't give a damn at all, but that being said, do you have a Super Bowl prediction?
I don't, because I in years past, I used to watch a lot more NFL, and now I can honestly say I haven't watched 1 minute of NFL this year. I was a big, back in the day, I love the LA Rams, like old school LA Rams.
Like, you're a big Eric Dickerson fan?
I just like that. I like it, to be honest with you. It's just something as simple as I like the jerseys, but I also like I always kind of like the Bengals. So I go based on city, and I don't need to see LA win another championship. So even if it is in their in their city. I'd like to see Cincinnati take it home. I think that'd be kind of cool for the folks down there. So that I'm gonna go with the Bengals with no insight, no nothing other than just I'm going for Cincinnati.
There you go. Very well reasoned argument. I've actually been to a game. I've been to a Bengals game in Cincinnati. Many people don't know this, that the Cincinnati airport is actually located in northern Kentucky. Cincinnati is right on the border of Ohio and Kentucky. So anything close to Kentucky, as you all know, is close to my heart. And the Rams are certainly they have more talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but something about Joe Burrow right now, when in doubt, go with the better of the two quarterbacks. And I have a little more trust in Joe Burrow than I do in Matthew Stafford. And it's always fun to cheer for the underdog. So what the hell? I'll say the Bengals are going to pull off the upset. And the Cincinnati Bengals, hold on tight. If you thought the apocalypse was coming soon, the Cincinnati Bengals as Super Bowl champion might definitely be the sign of the apocalypse. We'll see you tomorrow. That'll be the Super Bowl Sunday. I hope everybody enjoys that. If they enjoy their Sunday, whatever you're going to do with it, be it with family, be it outside. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer, whatever it might be. We hope you have a very pleasant Sunday. We'll be back Monday night. It's a late game on Monday, right around 10:30, 10:45 p.m. It's an 8 o'clock puck drop. So post game will be around 10:45 or so on Monday night. So put it in your calendar. Mark it down on paper, maybe tattoo it on your arm, whatever it's going to take. 10:45 p.m. for the post-game show on Monday night. While you're still here, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell anybody you happen to wander by that they should spend their post-game shows with the Illegal Curve guys. Thanks so much to everybody for joining us last night, for joining us this morning, for joining us tonight. For Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Monday night at 10:45 p.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve postgame show.